yourself is, can the carnivore diet be made even less healthy? And apparently the answer actually is yes. What I'm going to cover might actually be the worst possible diet advice for the liver ever. Not to mention just general health, but especially for the liver. Okay, so number one, they're going to recommend, this is by Paul Saladino, MD, from Dave Asprey's website. Now, Paul Saladino is a psychiatrist, okay, and he calls himself Carnivore MD, and he promotes the concept used to promote the concept that following a solid meat-centered diet is the best way to promote mental, physical health and well-being, etc. The typical carnivore diet bullshit. But the thing is, here he's going to encourage eating organ meats. Now, when I was an omnivore, I frequently would eat organ meats because they're cheap. Okay? So, to get protein and also a lot of trace nutrients, I would eat organ meats. However, I'm going to get into why you don't want to eat a lot of organ meats over the long term. Okay? So this is an appeal to nature. Whenever you see this archaeological evidence for eating organ meats, blah, 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 supposedly it led to the growth in brain size, this is going to be linked in the description. Please feel free to read this. So, yeah, while that might be true somewhat that humans did eat organ meats, I'm assuming so do other omnivorous apes, okay? What really led to the growth in human brain size, as you will see by a video I linked in the description it's from the Leakey Foundation, the Anthropology Foundation, called Humans, the Cooking Ape. The big thing that led to a big growth in brain size is actually cooking our food, which allowed us to absorb far much more nutrients out of the food that we're consuming, whether it's meat or vegetable food. You can digest more. Raw foodists, even raw foodists that eat animal food, cannot maintain, 100% raw foodists, very rarely, especially the women, can maintain enough body mass with women to retain their fertility. Okay? And I want people to look that up. It's going to be linked in the descriptions. Humans did scavenge before that. Measurable evidence that early humans were carnivores. That's not really true. And I'm going to leave a link to another video disproving this supposed that early humans were carnivores thing by looking at dental calculus and what actually people were eating. And no, people were not carnivores, not by any stretch of the imagination. People were like our other great ape relatives. The difference primarily is that we cook our food, which honestly does allow humans to consume more meat because we can cook it and make it safer to eat and easier to digest. So he wants to talk about the bioavailability of nutrients in organ meats. This is true, actually. There's also a lot of toxins in organ meats, but I'm not even going to get into that. So you have regard to minerals like zinc, magnesium, copper, phytic acid. The phytic acid in plants makes these less bioavailable. That might be true, but I'm going to get into what's called hypervitaminosis because of vitamins like vitamin A. Before I get into hypervitaminosis, I want to get into how Mr. Saladino or Dr. Saladino now promotes the consumption of very high sugar foods, including fruit and honey. In this, it's just talking about honey, but he also, you can look it up, he encourages the consumption of high-sugar fruits, which are ridiculous. Now, he's talking about the health benefits of honey, and of the chief health benefits, he puts antioxidants, okay? Antioxidants in honey. Honey doesn't really have that many antioxidants. Honey is not... What makes honey a, quote, superfood, and I use honey medicinally, okay? Very rarely do I use honey, but I do use honey medicinally if I have a cold or feel a cold coming on, and also during the winter season I'll take honey, because it's been found that its antimicrobial properties help to discourage keep you from getting upper respiratory tract infections, okay? Now, before I continue, I want to make clear I'm not a doctor, I'm not a registered nurse, I'm not a nurse practitioner, I'm not a dietitian, not a nutritionist, I'm none of that stuff. But I do want to talk about this, so I want people to understand, don't take health advice from me. This video is not intended as health advice. I encourage people not to take health advice from people on YouTube, including me, but to watch this video and understand that this video is for entertainment purposes. So you have to understand, he's talking about antioxidants, okay? Now, I'm going to get into that in a bit, okay? So, hypervitaminosis is literally what it is, okay? It's too much of a vitamin, in this case vitamin A. It refers to the toxic effects of ingesting too much preformed vitamin A, retinol esters, retinol. Symptoms arise from a result of altered bone metabolism and altered metabolism of other fat-soluble vitamins. Hypervitaminosis A is believed to have occurred in early humans, and the problem has persisted throughout human history. How did it happen in early humans, you might wonder? Well, the consumption of animal liver. Toxicity results from ingesting too much preformed vitamin A from foods such as fish liver or animal liver. Supplements or prescription medications. Okay, over-consuming preformed vitamin A as supplements also is an issue, okay? And that's why if you supplement with vitamin A, you probably should be supplementing with beta-carotene, okay? Not preformed vitamin A. Diagnosis can be difficult as serum retinol is not sensitive to toxic levels of vitamin A, but there are effective tests available. Hypervitaminosis A is usually treated by stopping intake of offending foods, like liver. High intake of provitamin carotenoids, like beta-carotene, from vegetables and fruits does not cause hypervitaminosis, as far as we know. Okay, but it can cause yellowing of the skin, but that's a keratinosis or something of that nature it's called. Signs and symptoms: changes in consciousness, decreased appetite, dizziness, vision changes, double vision in young children especially, drowsiness, headache, irritability, nausea, poor weight gain, particularly in infants and children, skin and hair changes, cracking at the corners of the mouth, hair loss, higher sensitivity to sunlight, oily skin and hair, skin peeling and itching, vomiting, yellow discoloration of the skin, abnormal softening of the skull bone in infants and small children, blurred vision, bone pain or swelling, bulging fontanelli. I'm going to have to look up what that is later. Gastric mucosal calcinosis, meaning too much calcium in the mucosa, in the gastric mucosa. Heart valve calcification, meaning calcium starts forming into the soft tissues, okay? Hypercalcemia, too high of calcium. Increased intracranial pressure manifesting as cerebral edema, papillary edema, and headache may be referred to as idiopathic intracranial hypertension. Premature the closure. That means the closure of the things in the skull. Okay. Spontaneous fracture, uremic pruritus. Now, some of these words I don't know. As I said, I'm not a doctor. My point is, causes. A potentially toxic source of vitamin A, hypervitaminosis A, can result from ingestion of too much vitamin A from the diet, supplements, or prescription medications. Okay, hypervitaminosis A results from excessive intake of preformed vitamin A. Okay, now remember, how did early man get it? Early man got it by eating too much animal liver and fish liver. Absorption and storage in the liver of retinol occur very efficiently until a pathologic condition develops. When ingested, 70 to 90% of preformed vitamin A is absorbed and used. According to a 2003 review, water miscible emulsified in solid forms of vitamin A supplements are more toxic than oil-based supplement and liver sources. So what that's saying is when you're taking the supplements are actually more toxic than the liver. But if you're eating regularly high amounts of liver, that's going to be detrimental. So this is from livestrong.com. How can you eat liver safely? Okay, liver is a good source of protein as well as iron and other nutrients. However, liver is also has high concentrations of elements that are not good for you, such as cholesterol. People with severe deficiencies of vitamin A, iron, copper, or B12 might benefit from eating liver, but this is a decision best left to a nutritionist or a doctor. Okay? There's a reason why. It's like taking a goddamn super supplement. Eating limits. Most people should eat liver no more than once a week, according to the Scientific Advisory Committee on Nutrition. Those with severe vitamin A or iron deficiencies might get the okay from their doctors to eat larger amounts. Most people should eat liver no more than once a week. Vitamin A. A 3-ounce serving of calf liver has 285% of your daily requirement of vitamin A. Vitamin A can be toxic if consumed in large amounts, as we've already talked about. Toxicity is more likely in children and in those who drink alcohol regularly and can cause nausea, drowsiness, and fever. Severe cases can lead to bone fractures and severe anemia. People who are already taking vitamin supplements should talk to their doctors before eating liver to make sure they're not exceeding the safe recommendation for vitamin A. Pregnant women and those trying to become pregnant might need to avoid liver completely. Pregnant women and those trying to become pregnant might need to avoid liver completely unless their doctors give the okay. According to the National Center for Biotechnology Information, vitamin A can cause abnormal fetal development. Okay? Vitamin A can cause abnormal fetal development as well as failure to thrive and kidney damage. Fat. Liver is very high in cholesterol. The recommended maximum intake for adults is 300 milligrams per day. A 3-ounce serving of beef liver has 330 milligrams, which is just over the limit. Lamb liver is higher at 426 milligrams per serving, while chicken liver has 536 milligrams. If you already have high cholesterol, you might need to avoid it completely. So if you already have high cholesterol, you might need to avoid it completely. Because liver is the organ in charge of filtering chemicals from the body, it's also one where the hormones and chemicals injected into the animals end up. If you want to eat liver on a regular basis, buy organic. Organic meat comes from animals who haven't been injected with hormones and antibiotics. You can also choose to get vitamin A from other sources instead of liver. Try fortified milk and cheese for vitamin A. You can also get beta-carotene, which the body then converts to vitamin A from plant sources, which includes carrots, spinach, kale, apricots, and mangoes. People might remember that I did a video on AGEs and also the cross-linking theory of aging. What I want to point out here is high consumption, long-term consumption of high fructose products like fruit accelerates glycation and several age-related variables in male rats, meaning eating high fructose diets, such as what's in fruit, causes an accelerated rate of aging in male rats. Fructose intake has increased steadily during the past 2 decades. Fructose, like other reducing sugars, can react with proteins through the Maillard reaction, glycation, which may account for several complications of diabetes mellitus and accelerating aging. Accelerating aging! So what you're doing is you're aging yourself when you're consuming a high fructose diet. In this study, they evaluated the effect of fructose intake on some age-related variables. Rats were fed for 1 year a commercial, non-purified diet and had free access to water, that had solutions of fructose, glucose, and sucrose. Kind of like what's in honey. Early glycation products were evaluated by blood glycated hemoglobin and fructosamine concentrations. Lipid peroxidation was estimated by urine, thiobarbiturate, or butyrate, whatever. Reactive substances. Skin collagen cross-linking was evaluated by solubilization in natural salt or diluted acetate acid solutions and by the ratio of beta to alpha collagen chains, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so the tested sugars had no effect of fructose, cholesterol, fructosamine, fed rats. Okay, type 1 ratio were significantly lower, whereas insoluble collagen. Further studies are required to qualify the precise role of fructose in the aging process. Fructose is a main component in human diets. Free fructose, a monosaccharide in monosaccharide forms, is found naturally in honey. It's found naturally in honey and fruits, figs, dates, grapes, apples, and berries. In food products, fructose is present as a constituent of sucrose. Concurrent advances in refining isomerization. In humans and rats, fructose is absorbed in the small intestine. The absorption capacity for the fructose is less than that for glucose or sucrose, and the addition of glucose facilitates the absorption of fructose. Absorbed fructose is metabolized primarily by the liver, although both the small intestine mucosa, and I'm going to get into the liver in a second. Dietary fructose has adverse effects on certain segments of the population. The rapid hepatic fructose utilization leads to far-reaching consequences for carbohydrate, lipid, and purine metabolization, or the use of these things. So fructose elevates triglycerides. Take note of that. Fructose elevates triglycerides, cholesterol, uric acid, urea nitrogen, and carnitine in the blood. Fructose increases triglycerides, cholesterol, uric acid, urea nitrogen, and carnitine in the blood. It's a whammy on a number of systems of the body, particularly the liver and the kidneys. Furthermore, the reducing for this process. Okay, so I'm going to go to the other aspects of how it affects the liver. High consumption. New study shows how excessive consumption of fructose, like when you're consuming a whole shitload of honey and a whole shitload of fruit, overwhelms gut defenses and results in the development of fatty liver. After one consumes food or a beverage containing fructose, the gastrointestinal system or gut helps to shield the liver from damage by breaking down the sugar before it reaches the liver. Okay, however, the consumption of too much fructose, particularly in a short period of time, can overwhelm the gut, causing fructose to spill over into the liver, where it wreaks havoc and causes fatty liver, researchers discovered. The findings in mice help to unravel the long-standing questions about how people metabolize fructose and form a form of sugar often found in fruits, vegetables, and honey, as well as most processed foods in the form of high fructose corn syrup. Consumption of fructose has increased 100-fold over the last century, even as studies have shown that excessive consumption, particularly sweet drinks, are linked to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, obesity, and diabetes. The findings were published in Nature Metabolism. When large quantities of fructose reach the liver uses excess fructose to create fat, a process called lipogenesis. Eventually, people who consume too much fructose can develop non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, a condition in which too much fat is stored in the liver. Okay? Now, this is what I want to point out. It's not just carnivore dieters or Paul Saladino pushing this bullshit. When I was on the starch solution, luckily I went back to the Eco Atkins diet and fixed my triglyceride issue. But I was consuming apples at a considerably higher rate, which raised my triglycerides. Luckily, I know about metabolism, and I finally had enough of the starch solution and realized what was going on, and I got off the high carbohydrate diet and went back on a low carbohydrate vegan diet. Okay, higher protein, higher fat, lower carbohydrates, and carbohydrates coming mostly from fiber. High fiber vegetables, high fiber, nuts, seeds. Well, actually seeds, I don't eat many nuts, but a lot of like pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, etc. So I changed my diet around to reduce the triglyceride levels in my blood by cutting the sugar out. The sugar came from fruit. I always have eaten a whole food diet. Okay, so that is where the sugar was coming from apples. Again, everything will be linked in the description. Now, this is from a registered dietitian, this article, and this is about the ORAC power of plants, okay, that help eliminate free radicals. You remember Saladino is talking about how honey has antioxidants. Honey does not have very many antioxidants compared to certain other foods. Now, what ORAC stands for, O-R-A-C, is oxygen radical absorption capacity. So the amount of free radicals something can eliminate registers it on the ORAC scale. So dark chocolate, you'll see dark chocolate and cocoa are very high, pecans are very high, artichokes are very high, wild blueberries. Now these aren't necessarily in order here, it doesn't look like. But my point is, you will notice, okay, like for example, ground cloves, cinnamon, oregano, turmeric, cumin, parsley, basil, ginger, thyme. These are things that are very, very, very low in sugar, and I'm going to get into that when I show you another thing about Atkins and what fruits are available in that. So these are where you can get the things. All fruits and vegetables contain antioxidants, which is one reason it's important to incorporate them into every meal. Okay, So again, this is linked in the description, but I wanted to show this to folks. So these are the top 20 highest ORAC value foods. Okay, oxygen radical absorption capacity in foods. Number 1 is cloves, ground, sumac bran, ginger, ground, sorghum bran, raw, oregano, dried, turmeric, ground, acai berries, freeze-dried, sorghum bran, black, sumac grain, raw, cocoa powder, unsweetened, cumin seed, maca berry powder, parsley, dried, sorghum bran, basil, baking chocolate, unsweetened, curry powder, sorghum, chocolate, Dutched, okay, maca berry juice. 21 to 40. Sage, mustard seed. You'll notice these are all very low in sugar. Ginger, ground, black pepper, thyme, marjoram, goji berries, rice bran, crude, chili powder, sorghum, chocolate, dark, flax whole lignans, chocolate semi-sweet, pecans, paprika, chokeberry, tarragon, ginger root, elderberries, sorghum. 41 to 60. Peppermint, fresh. Oregano, fresh. Now you'll notice that the fresh is lower on the ORAC scale than the dried. That's because these have fluid in them. So by weight, they have less of the active phytochemicals. So the dried is stronger per weight. So peppermint fresh, oregano fresh, walnuts, hazelnuts, cranberries raw, pears. Now this is where you start getting into some things with a little bit higher sugar content. Pears dried, savory fresh, artichokes, kidney beans, pink beans, black beans, pistachios, currants, pinto beans, plums, chocolate, milk, lentils, agave dried, apples dried, garlic powder. And you'll notice a lot of these foods are extremely nutrient dense too. ORAC value 61 to 80. Blueberries, prunes, sorghum bran, white, lemon balm leaves, soybeans, onion powder, blackberries, garlic raw, cilantro leaves, wine, cabernet, blah, 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 raspberries, basil, almonds, dillweed, cowpeas. 81 to 100. Wine, red, strawberries, peanut butter, smooth, figs, cherries, gooseberries, apricots, dried, peanuts, all types, cabbage. So what you want to do, as you can see here, this is top 100. This is all 100. Cloves, sumac. You want to aim for the things that are at this end where it's low on the glycemic index and high on the ORAC. And this is what Dr. Atkins talks about. And when you're eating proteins, go for proteins that are high in antioxidants, like black beans, pink beans, kidney beans, okay, lentils. Okay, you see what I'm saying here? Agave has more antioxidants, although I wouldn't eat agave either, but that has more antioxidants than honey, okay? You get my point? That's my point. Blueberries, prunes, blah, 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 you see? One of the best books, I think, for anti-aging is a book called The Atkins Age-Defying Diet, where Dr. Atkins shows you how to select foods that are high on the ORAC and low on the glycemic index and low on the glycemic load. Now, he's going to explain this in this video. Now, people that think fruits and vegetables are by any means equal as far as health benefits are concerned are crazy. Okay, it's just not true. So I'm going to let Dr. Atkins talk about this. People, this playlist is linked in the description. People are more than welcome to watch all of these videos. This is my Eco Atkins playlist. So here we go.
We'll skip the next one and we'll go on to the next. To dismiss the complaint that the Atkins diet skimps on fruits and vegetables, I would like to point out that it is nutritionally naive to lump fruits and vegetables together. There is a wide variance.
Notice he stated that it's nutritionally naive. It's extremely nutritionally naive to lump fruits and vegetables together. And he'll continue now.
In their phytochemical content. In my latest book, Age Defying, I deal with this issue. Carbohydrates per se are not nutritionally essential, only the phytochemicals that they contain. Future dieters will be instructed to select foods with a high antioxidant to carbohydrate ratio. The best phytochemicals act as
higher antioxidant to carbohydrate ratio. Notice that.
Antioxidants, and this is a very good study. By the way, it was done out of Tufts, and I wonder if it was done from the USDA. I hope it was, because this work is very, very valuable. Let's look at the PowerPoint that shows it. There are two of them. I can't see whether that's on or not, but
that's the retrospective study.
Then one more. Yeah, I know it's in color. Okay. These are the foods that have the highest ratio of antioxidants done by the Tufts study per gram of carbohydrate. Look at fruits and vegetables were studied. Go to the next one just briefly, and then back to this one. All right, now you see there's a lot of blue in the next one. That's the lower half. Back to the previous one. And you see that the top of the list are foods like garlic, kale, onions, leafy greens, spinach. These are the foods with the highest ratios. The only fruits on the list were berries. If we now turn to the next list,
it's important to note, too, that most berries are very low compared to other fruits in fructose, in sugar.
you're going to see the bottom of the list. You're going to see that things like apples and pears and bananas have a reading of 0.2, and yet kale a reading of 6.5. So that if you pick the right green vegetables, you will do 30 times better than if you pick the wrong fruits. One leaf of lettuce has double the antioxidant power as an entire banana. And so let's no longer lump fruits and vegetables together. Let's learn to be selective and pick the vegetables that work. All right, next PowerPoint. And now we have to deal with the accusation.
So I want to get into low carbohydrate vegetables. This is from Atkins.com, the AtkinsDiet.com, Atkins.com. And I want to point out that these are the vegetables that if you want to try and reduce the amount of cross-linking and reduce the amount of damage being done to your body by sugar, these are the things that you want to be consuming. So let's see here. So we have asparagus, spinach. So asparagus, spinach, Swiss chard, celery, lettuce, avocado, cabbage. Now remind you, if you're not on a carbohydrate controlled diet, you can eat many servings of these. Okay, remember, you can have many servings of these because it takes a lot to add up. Okay, and if you're not on a carbohydrate diet, a carbohydrate controlled diet, you probably can eat quite a bit of these. Okay, and the thing is, you're getting a lot more nutritional bang for your buck here. Cabbage, 3 grams. Green olives, 3 grams. These are carbohydrates here. Cauliflower, zucchini, tomato, green pepper, red pepper, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, green beans. And this is not a complete list, but look. Asparagus, spinach, Swiss chard, celery, lettuce, avocado, cabbage, green olives, cucumber, cauliflower, zucchini, tomato, green pepper, red pepper, broccoli, Brussels sprouts. Now these are some that you should probably not eat that much of if you're trying to reduce the amount of cross-linking damage. Rutabaga, artichoke, celeriac, onion, peas, beetroot, butternut squash, parsnip, potato, corn, sweet potato, yam, cassava. Now, this is the thing. Again, if you're not on a carbohydrate-controlled diet, even in his book, The Atkins Age-Defying Diet, he does talk about the beta-carotene and other carotenoid content of sweet potatoes. But if you're overweight or need a carbohydrate-controlled diet, you should obviously forego the sweet potato for something else, such as perhaps squash of some kind. But what you need to understand here is that these foods, you can still eat them. You just can't eat tons of them, okay? You just can't eat a whole bunch of these foods. But you can eat some of these foods, okay, and still retain a carbohydrate-controlled diet. Okay.